We have a Fox News alert on this day, this 31st of August, 2023, episode 3 of the Left-Handed Drummer podcast. Glad to have you with us today. President Joseph R. Biden Jr. has announced that he will not be participating in the 9/11 ceremonies at Ground Zero or in Washington or in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Biden has announced that he is going to go to Alaska, and he's going to observe the 9/11 Memorial Day at a military base in Alaska. And you know what I say to that? That's fine with me. Now, I know some of you are going to go, well, that's disgraceful. He should be with the 9/11 families. He should be at Ground Zero. He should be present there. You want Joe Biden there? You want Joe Biden there with the 9/11 families so he can embarrass himself and embarrass our country again and embarrass the 9/11 families? No. You want Joe Biden there so that he can give a speech and go, I know how it feels to lose a loved one because I'm going to tell you about it because I lost my son Bo on 9/11. Mr. President, I thought Bo died of cancer in 2015. I lost Bo. He was killed in the North Tower. It was a tragedy to lose Bo that way. Mr. President, you didn't lose Bo in the North Tower. Bo died of cancer in 2015. I know when Bo died. So, who knows what he'll say. Because he's told several different stories about how he lost his son Bo. So just let him go to Alaska. That's fine. Get him out of here. He'll probably say something up there that'll be stupid, of course, but it will be a minimal damage because he'll be in Alaska. So let him go. I'm fine with that. So today we're going to talk about crime. We're going to talk about the insanity of defunding the police and what that's done to our country and how that's affected people in our country. I was struck by a story of Douglas Cantor from Austin, Texas, and his mother, Julia Cantor. On June 12th, 2021, Douglas was in Austin at an event, and some gang members, rival gangs, showed up and started shooting at each other, and Douglas Cantor was killed in the crossfire. This comes after the Austin City Council had made the insane decision to defund their police department. Now, they defunded the police department because they did what other Democrat cities did after the George Floyd incident. Because they decided that even though they had perfectly good police departments that were not a problem, that police everywhere deserve to be defunded. And so they just decided we're not going to have police anymore. We're going to have social workers that are going to step in and handle shootings and homicides and robberies and burglaries and car thefts and carjackings and kidnappings and domestic assaults and gang violence and drug violence and drug trafficking and child trafficking and all kinds of stuff. We're going to let social workers do that from now on. We're not going to have the police anymore. We're just going to defund the police. And that's what Austin did because it was the cool thing to do. And everybody's doing it now. Let's defund our police too, even though there was no problem with the Austin Police Department. But the problem is that Austin is a liberal lunatic enclave in an otherwise state that is as red as a fire engine. I mean, this is Texas. Texas is a red state. Don't mess with Texas. Texas is a vast majority of Texas is a conservative state, but you've got this one spot in southern central Texas called Austin, where it's run by, it's like an embassy for, all the left-wing progressive lunatics. They have control of this one city in Austin. And it might not be the only liberal city in Texas, but there's not very many liberal cities in Texas. Texas is a conservative state. And so here they are down in Austin, and they go, well, hey, man, everybody's doing it. Let's defund the police. Let's not have a police department anymore. And so they defunded their police. And consequently, when people called the police to report crimes, it would take the police about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get there. And we're talking violent crimes. We're talking assault. We're talking carjackings. The police showed up in about an hour and a half or something like that because their calls were completely, they were swamped because they didn't have the manpower. And over the course of time, this time between the George Floyd incident and now, the Austin Police Department has seen the exodus of more than 800 officers. That's just unbelievable. That, these are good men and women, faithful officers that were doing their job, doing it the right way, and their city was treating them like shit. And because defunding the police was the cool thing to do. Now, since then, the Austin City Council has recently decided, maybe defunding the police wasn't really the right thing to do, and so they refunded the police. They put the money back, and the damage is done. You can shut the barn after the horse is out, but the damage is done. You can't move back into a house that's already burned to the ground. And that's what the Austin City Council did. They burned the city to the ground, essentially, theoretically speaking. So that's what defunding the police gets you. I want to read what Julia Cantor wrote a letter to the Austin City Council regarding the murder of her son. And this is a pretty powerful rebuke. So I want to just read you a little bit of this. It's time that you see what you have done, not only to the victims like my son, but also to our family and friends in your city. Your irresponsible choices for political gain has put a target on the backs of Austin's citizens and all who visit. You have killed and ruined thousands of lives and couldn't care less as long as you stay in power. Just like the killer, you are all cowards. None of you has the guts to speak up and point out how stupid and destructive that was. I'm sure if it was your kids that were being killed, you would find your voice. And she's absolutely right. She's 100% correct. If it was her kids, if it was the children of the liberal city council members, one of their kids got killed, you'd have a whole different ballgame. They'd lock that joint down tighter than a motherfucker. I guarantee it. I say this about the border all the time. Hell, if Democrats thought all those illegals coming across the border were going to vote Republican, yeah, you wouldn't be able to shine a flashlight through that border wall. That's how secure that wall would be. That's how secure that border would be. They'd lock that border down in a second. So, I remember watching in Portland, a city councilman being chased out of down the street by a bunch of lunatic, gang members, criminals, looters, rioters, what have you. And they're chasing him down the street. And he's running for his life. And all he says to him as he's running away from him is, but I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. Yeah, they don't give a shit. I'm a Democrat. Oh, like they were going to stop and go, wait a minute, guys. This guy's a Democrat. He's on our side. And the Democrats are on the side of the criminals. But the criminals are equal opportunity inflictors of pain and violence. You know, what are you chasing me for? I'm a Democrat. That's great. You know, back in the 90s, one of the reasons why the city of New York was one of the safest big cities in America was because Mayor Rudolph Giuliani instituted, and it may have been a division before him, but he increased the budget for it and expanded something known as the Street Crimes Unit. Now, these were New York City police officers who were in plain clothes who went out in public on the streets of New York, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and they're in plain clothes and they're just walking amongst the public, walking amongst the pedestrians, citizens, the traffic, what have you. And they would see a crime and they'd respond. And the criminals were terrified because they had no idea. You had no idea if this guy walking next to you was a police officer or not. They had no idea. And it was extremely successful. And it put a huge dent in criminal activity in New York City. And consequently, New York became known as one of the safest big cities in America. In part because of the work of this Street Crimes Unit. So, but that's all gone now. And now New York is, people are getting shoved off subway platforms in New York, shoved in front of trains, and that kind of stuff. People are getting killed and carjacked and shot and everything else. They have signs up all over the place that say, this is a gun-free zone. And for some reason or other, the criminals don't obey the signs. I don't know. Criminals don't care that it's a gun-free zone. It's just wonder how that could possibly be, right? Because there's a sign there that says you're not allowed to have guns. But it was, at the time, it was one of the safest big cities in America, and that's all over. That's all gone, and Eric Adams, of course, is continuing the work of that jackass that came before him in demolishing the city of New York. The problem is there's no consequences for criminals. And if you reach a point where there's no consequences for your actions and you can do whatever you want, that's what you're going to do. If you're of that mindset, if you're a criminal, you're going to do whatever you want because there's nothing going to happen to you. And even if you are arrested, you're going to be let right back out on the street again with no bond because they've done away with bond in some places, like Illinois, where they've done away with the bond. You can't hold somebody on bond anymore. So we'll just let them out the door. And it doesn't matter what they've done, violent crimes or whatever. Who cares? It's a revolving door. Just let them out the door. So now we have the shoplifting epidemic where places like Walgreens and CVS Pharmacy and Walmart and Target are getting looted all over the place. And in the case of Walmart in Chicago, they got sick of it. And they moved out. They said, we're closing our Walmarts in Chicago. Chicago doesn't have a Walmart now. Walmart just said, we're not putting up with this anymore. Yeah, you lost your Walmart. And we'll move to a city where if someone comes into our store and steals from us, they're going to be arrested. And they're going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We don't have to put up with this. We're the most successful retail franchise in all of human history. We're Walmart. We can go somewhere else. The hell with you. Go piss up a rope. And they did. They moved out. And people went, well, we don't have a Walmart now. This isn't fair. You know what? This is what you voted for, people of Chicago. This is what you got. And now you got this new mayor, Brandon Johnson, who is going to continue the policy of not prosecuting anybody and, letting criminals run wild. So, Brandon Johnson's new policy for dealing with carjackers and auto theft is not to prosecute the thieves and the carjackers. His brilliant idea that he came up with is to sue the auto manufacturers because they're not making the cars theft-proof enough. Oh, so it's, don't blame the criminal. It's not his fault. It's the fault of the auto manufacturers. Let's sue them because they're not making good enough anti-theft equipment in their cars. It's just, God, can anybody be this stupid? Yes, of course they can. Back in April, there was an incident in Chicago where two teens, age 14 and 17, stole a car and were driving. I believe they were being chased. They were driving at a high rate of speed, and they crashed the car into another vehicle, and they killed a 6-month-old baby. And so that's a homicide, right? That should be a homicide. Was that a homicide? Was they charged with a homicide? No. You know what they were charged with? Misdemeanor trespassing. They weren't charged with the death of the baby at all. They stole a car. Well, misappropriate. They're trespassing in a car. They decided that stealing a car is now just trespassing. And, if a baby got killed, it's like the old Joseph Stalin thing. If you want to make omelets, you got to crack a few eggs, right? So, some people are going to die. Well, no big deal, right? So that's what you're dealing with here. And in terms of the shoplifting epidemic, look at Nordstrom. Look at the Nordstrom in Walnut Creek, California, that got looted. The Nordstrom in Westfield Center in San Francisco is closing because of the theft. And people don't want to come there. Employees don't feel safe there. The shoplifting in San Francisco is completely out of control, and nothing's being done about it. It's not the police's fault. It's the policies of Mayor London Breed in San Francisco and the city council. They don't believe in prosecuting anybody. So they have rampant theft. It's going to continue. What do you expect? So businesses are moving out of San Francisco, and this is once a great city. I went to high school in the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco is a beautiful city, but it's run by lunatics, and they've run it into the ground. This was a beautiful, beautiful city, and it's really it's such a shame. And businesses are leaving in droves. Businesses are leaving Fisherman's Wharf, the Embarcadero, Market Street, all these businesses that were thriving. The Westfield Center's been sold, and their biggest longtime anchor of that mall, Nordstrom, is closing. We had enough. We don't have to put up with this anymore. And they're leaving. Maybe start prosecuting people and, decide you're not going to put up with this anymore, and maybe things will change. But maybe they won't, because as it stands right now, crime is legal in California. It's legal in Oregon. It's legal in Portland. Look at Portland. Oh, my God. What a, you know, it's like that Obi-Wan Kenobi's line from Star Wars where he says, "You will not find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be careful." You know, it's absolutely right. Portland has become a wretched hive of scum and villainy. How'd you like to be the Portland Tourist Bureau? The people that have to, advertise Portland as a place to come and live and visit, and what a great town to live in. How'd you like to try to make the case, those people that have to make the case for coming to visit Portland? Who the hell would want to visit that shithole? Do you know that the city council in Portland passed an ordinance that says that if you're in public and you're a dog, if you're in a dog park and you identify as a dog, you can take your pants down and shit in a dog park because you identify as a dog. And who are we to say that you're not a dog? Right? So take your pants down and shit in a dog park all you want. No problem. That's an actual ordinance in the city of Portland. And that's another place that criminals are being revolving door, let right out of jail. People are being assaulted, robbed, carjacked, murdered. And they just shrug their shoulders. Oh well. But thank God we don't have an oppressive police department anymore that's, arresting people. Because that's not nice to when the police arrest people. So, and then you had, of course, in Seattle, the autonomous zone, CHOP, where they took over an entire city block or several city blocks and just, barricaded them off and said, this is our own area now. We own this. Now, it didn't matter that there was peoples that lived in houses along that block that had to come in and out somehow and go to work somehow. No. Apparently, those houses are all included in the CHOP district and are owned by the criminals. And the city of Seattle put up with this. I guarantee you where I'm from, if a bunch of asshole criminals tried to take over a street and try to barricade the street, the police would be there in about 5 minutes, and they'd be kicking their ass into the Stone Age. They'd be kicking these criminals' asses into the Stone Age. They'd get cuffed and stuffed and put in jail. You're not blocking off a city street. But in Seattle, they called it the Summer of Love. Remember that? Oh, well, we'll just have the Summer of Love like it's Woodstock or something. And so, and the same thing's happening in Chicago, where mobs of criminals are taking over streets. And at any given time, you might be driving through the city of Chicago and there's 5,000 people in the street looting and burning cars and, assaulting people and whatever else they want to do. And there's nothing, what are you going to do about it? Because you got a mayor in Chicago, Brandon Johnson, who's, he's with the criminals. He's for the criminals. He's not for you. He's not on your side. And that's the leadership in all of these liberal towns. They're on the side of the criminal. They're not on your side. Their sympathy is with the criminal. Our own vice president, remember? She put up a thing where, a fundraising thing to get the rioters and looters out of jail. Because they're for criminals. They're not for law-abiding people. And they're not for the police. Unless the police are doing their bidding. I mean, unless they're using the police to arrest people for going to church during COVID. Things like that. But no, they're fine with criminals. And at this point, in a lot of these cities, there's no law. It's the Old West. You can do whatever you want. And there's no consequences. And if this continues, we're not going to have a country. We're just, I shudder to think what America is going to look like in 5-10 years if this continues. Thankfully, where I live, if you pull this shit, you're going to go to jail because we did not defund our police. We support our police. And where I live, Democrats are not in charge, and they never will be. They have no chance of getting elected here. They couldn't even manufacture enough ballots to get elected here. They have no chance. And so therefore, we have law and order. And that's what we have to have in this country. If we don't have law and order, then we have chaos and we have anarchy, and it's only going to get worse. And that's all I have for you today. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you think. You're free to agree. You're free to disagree. You're free to tell me I'm the smartest man in the world. You're free to tell me I'm an asshole. Whatever you like. Tell me what you think. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye.